Have you ever felt like time is slipping through your fingers, leaving you overwhelmed, unaccomplished, and constantly chasing deadlines? Meet Elara. Her days were a whirlwind of good intentions, undone tasks, and the gnawing feeling that she was always behind. Every morning she'd wake with a burst of optimism, a long list of things to do, and by evening the list would be largely untouched, replaced by a crushing sense of defeat. Sound familiar? Elara's life felt like a perpetual balancing act on a unicycle, perpetually on the verge of toppling over. Her calendar was a colorful mosaic of forgotten appointments and overdue projects. Personal goals like learning a new language or even reading a book remained distant dreams, perpetually relegated to someday. She'd often find herself scrolling endlessly through social media, lost in a digital labyrinth, only to snap back to reality hours later, fueled by guilt and a fresh wave of panic about all the time she'd just lost. This constant state of overwhelm wasn't just affecting her productivity. It was eroding her self-esteem and casting a shadow over her usually vibrant personality. She yearned for control, for clarity, for a way to sculpt her days instead of letting them dissolve into chaos. One evening, after yet another day that ended with more tasks added than completed, Elara stared at her reflection. "Something has to change," she whispered, a flicker of fierce determination igniting in her eyes. It was a silent vow, a commitment to reclaim her time, her focus, and ultimately her peace of mind. This wasn't just about getting things done. It was about living her life with intention. Her journey began with a simple yet profound step, a time audit. Armed with a notebook and a newfound commitment, Elara meticulously tracked every minute of her day for an entire week. She noted down everything, from the mundane task of boiling water to the lengthy detours into online shopping. The initial revelations were jarring. She discovered that what she thought were quick checks on social media often morphed into 30-minute black holes. Her 5-minute email replies accumulated into hours of fragmented attention. The true shock came from seeing how much time was spent in reactive mode, responding to notifications, jumping between tasks without a clear purpose, and constantly putting out small, avoidable fires. This audit wasn't about judgment. It was about awareness. It was like turning on the lights in a dimly lit room, suddenly revealing all the hidden clutter and forgotten corners. Elara realized that she wasn't necessarily lacking time. She was lacking awareness of how she was using it. This eye-opening experience laid the foundation for every strategic change she would implement next. It was the crucial first step toward intentional living, forcing her to confront her habits head-on and providing the data she needed to make informed adjustments to her daily routine. The raw numbers spoke volumes, presenting an undeniable truth about her time expenditure. With the shocking revelations of her time audit fresh in her mind, Elara understood that mere awareness wasn't enough. She needed a compass, a guiding star to navigate her days. This led her to the concept of goal setting, specifically the SMART framework: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Previously, her goals were vague aspirations like be more productive or get fit. Now she transformed them. Be more productive became complete the quarterly report by Friday, reducing research time by 15%. Get fit became run 3 miles 3 times a week for the next month, improving my mile time by 30 seconds. This shift in perspective was revolutionary. By defining exactly what success looked like, by attaching clear metrics and deadlines, her goals transformed from fuzzy wishes into tangible targets. Each SMART goal served as a beacon, illuminating the path forward and helping her discern which tasks genuinely moved her closer to her aspirations and which were merely distractions. This clarity provided an immediate filter for her daily decisions, making it easier to say no to non-essential activities and enthusiastically embrace those that aligned with her newly defined purpose. It was the first step in intentionally designing her future. Defining her goals was one thing, knowing which tasks to tackle first was another. Elara soon discovered the power of prioritization through two invaluable tools, the Eisenhower Matrix and the Pareto Principle. The Eisenhower Matrix helped her categorize tasks into 4 quadrants: urgent, important, not urgent, important, urgent, not important, and not urgent, not important. This simple visual framework clarified what needed immediate attention, what could be scheduled, what could be delegated, and what could be eliminated entirely. She learned to focus on the not urgent, important tasks, the long-term planning, personal development, and relationship building, which often got neglected in the daily rush. Simultaneously, the Pareto Principle, or the 80-20 rule, offered another layer of insight. Elara applied it by identifying the 20% of her efforts that would yield 80% of her desired results. For her work projects, it meant focusing on the core deliverables rather than getting lost in minor details. In her personal life, it meant dedicating time to activities that genuinely recharged her, rather than passively consuming content. These two principles became her strategic compass, allowing her to invest her limited time and energy where it truly mattered, maximizing her impact and minimizing wasted effort. With goals in place and a newfound understanding of prioritization, Elara was ready to structure her days. She adopted a rigorous planning routine, embracing the concept of time blocking. Each evening or morning, she would map out her next day, allocating specific blocks of time for specific tasks. Deep work sessions were scheduled for her peak productivity hours, free from distractions. Emails were batched and handled at designated times, preventing constant interruptions. Even breaks, exercise, and personal activities found their rightful place on her calendar. This wasn't about rigid adherence to a schedule. It was about intentionality. The calendar became her ally, a visual representation of her commitments and priorities. She also learned about task batching, grouping similar tasks together, like making all her calls at once or drafting all her social media posts in one go. This reduced context switching, a notorious productivity killer. Theming her days also proved effective. Tuesdays became marketing day, and Fridays were admin and planning day. This systematic approach brought a sense of calm and control to her previously chaotic existence. She felt less like she was reacting to her day, and more like she was purposefully crafting it, piece by careful piece. One of Elara's biggest adversaries had always been procrastination. Big, daunting tasks often loomed over her, inducing a paralysis that led to endless delays. She discovered the Pomodoro Technique, working in focused 25-minute sprints, followed by short breaks. The simplicity of it was revolutionary. Breaking down a massive report into several 25-minute Pomodoros made it feel less overwhelming, more manageable. The built-in breaks provided opportunities to refresh and avoid burnout. Beyond techniques, Elara delved deeper into the psychology of procrastination. She realized it often stemmed from a fear of failure, a need for perfection, or simply not knowing where to start. To combat this, she started adopting the Just Start principle, committing to only 5 minutes of a dreaded task. More often than not, those 5 minutes turned into much longer, as the inertia of inaction was broken. She also celebrated small wins, acknowledging that progress, not perfection, was the key. This shift in mindset, combined with practical strategies like breaking down tasks and setting small timers, slowly chipped away at her old habit of delay, replacing it with a new momentum of action. Distractions, both digital and environmental, had been silent saboteurs of Elara's productivity. She decided to wage a full-scale war against them. Her first target, her phone. Notifications were silenced or turned off, and the phone itself was placed in a different room during focused work sessions. She even tried digital detox periods, where she'd avoid non-essential screen time for several hours. Her physical workspace also underwent a transformation. Clutter was minimized, ensuring her desk was a sanctuary of focus, not a repository of unfinished business. She used noise-canceling headphones to block out ambient sounds, and even explored certain types of ambient background music, specifically designed for concentration. Communicating her boundaries to family and colleagues was another crucial step. She learned to politely inform others when she was in deep work mode and unavailable for casual interruptions. This wasn't about being unapproachable. It was about respecting her own focused time and, by extension, the quality of her output. Each eliminated distraction was like patching a leak in a dam, preserving her precious mental energy and allowing her to sustain longer periods of deep, uninterrupted work. As Elara's time management skills sharpened, she encountered a new challenge: the sheer volume of demands on her time from others. She had a tendency to say yes to every request, often at the expense of her own priorities. This led her to embrace two powerful concepts: delegation and saying no. Delegation, she discovered, wasn't about offloading unwanted tasks, but about empowering others and leveraging collective strengths. At work, she identified tasks that could be effectively handled by teammates, providing clear instructions and trusting their capabilities. In her personal life, she learned to involve family members more in household chores, fostering a shared sense of responsibility. Even more challenging was mastering the art of saying no. Initially, it felt uncomfortable, almost selfish. But Elara learned to decline gracefully, explaining that her focus was currently on specific priorities or offering alternative solutions that didn't involve her direct participation. She realized that every yes to something trivial was a no to something important. By setting clear boundaries and communicating them respectfully, she not only protected her time, but also gained respect from others who began to appreciate her focused approach. It was an act of self-preservation and a critical step in maintaining control over her schedule and energy. True mastery of time management, Elara learned, wasn't about one-off tactics, but about building sustainable habits and routines. She began establishing powerful morning and evening rituals. Her morning routine included meditation, light exercise, and reviewing her top 3 priorities for the day, setting a calm and focused tone before the day's demands began. Her evening routine involved tidying her workspace, planning for the next day, and winding down with a book, signaling to her mind that it was time to rest. These routines weren't rigid. They were flexible frameworks that provided structure and reduced decision fatigue. By automating these daily processes, she freed up mental energy for more complex tasks. She also integrated new habits gradually, one at a time, using cues and rewards to solidify them. For instance, after completing her Pomodoro sessions, she'd allow herself a short walk or a favorite cup of tea as a reward. This consistent, deliberate effort transformed her approach to time, embedding productivity principles deep into her daily life. It was no longer about trying to manage time. It was simply how she operated, effortlessly and effectively. Even with all her newfound strategies, Elara quickly realized that time management wasn't a static skill, but an ongoing process of refinement. She made review and adapt, a cornerstone of her practice. Every Friday afternoon, she'd dedicate 30 minutes to reviewing her week. What went well? What challenges did she face? Where did she lose focus? She'd analyze her time, audit notes, and her completed task lists, identifying patterns and areas for improvement. This wasn't about self-criticism, but self-compassion and continuous learning. If a particular time-blocking strategy didn't work for a certain project, she'd experiment with a new approach next week. If a meeting consistently ran over, she'd propose a stricter agenda or time limit. She learned that setbacks were not failures but valuable data points. Embracing flexibility was also crucial. Life is unpredictable. There would be days when unexpected events derailed her meticulously planned schedule. Instead of feeling defeated, Elara learned to pivot, adjust her expectations, and reprioritize, always returning to her core values and long-term goals. This iterative process ensured that her time management system remained agile, effective, and perfectly tailored to her evolving needs, allowing her to gracefully navigate the ebb and flow of daily life. Elara's journey from chaos to control demonstrates that mastering time management is a transformative process accessible to anyone. By auditing her time, setting smart goals, prioritizing effectively with the Eisenhower Matrix and Pareto Principle, and planning her days with time blocking, she built a strong foundation, conquering procrastination with the Pomodoro Technique, eliminating distractions, learning to delegate and say no, and establishing consistent routines solidified her newfound efficiency. Through continuous review and adaptation, Elara not only reclaimed her time but also her peace of mind, achieving greater focus, productivity, and overall well-being. Her story is a testament to the power of intentional living. Your time is your most precious resource. It's finite, non-renewable, and profoundly impactful on the quality of your life. Don't let it slip away. Start small, be consistent, and be kind to yourself. Embrace the journey of discovery, experiment with different strategies, and find what truly works for you. By taking control of your time, you're not just managing tasks. You're building a life lived with purpose, passion, and profound accomplishment. The power to transform your days and indeed your life lies within you. What will you do with your precious time, starting today?